So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. It's also a time difference between us. And Ole, very welcome, and thank you for having you here in the Zoom program. It's always nice to meet you. It's a long time ago we've seen each other. I'm here with Heidi Gundel. Maybe you can say also a little bit about yourself, Heidi, and then I'm very honored, Ole, to meet you again after all these years. Almost crying, but how are you, Ole?
I'm doing really good. It's intense time. If people haven't noticed, these I think 2020, they say it was the year of the Great Reset or whatever, at least what they tried. But I would also say it was the year of the Great Retreat, where people were forced into looking themselves in the mirror and saying, what have I done with my life? Is this really what it's all about? And suddenly we're given time out by these kind forces to lock us indoors. Very kind of them, so considerate. But suddenly they had the time also to look into things of what is actually happening. And so I find that these years have been last year and this year has been very challenging, very testing, fantastic, horrible, amazing, scary as hell. It's the whole package. So anyone who's bored, well, I don't know how you manage to be bored, because this is exciting times, I would say. And I also think that it's incredible times when it comes to evolve as spiritual beings, also on the street level as human beings. So anyone who's whining, I would say stop, get out of victimhood and kick yourself in the butt and say, okay, why am I here, and what can I do for us? What can I do for the world? That is the time here. So amazing times, I would say, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's really nice to see you again, Hans. And first time, Heidi. My great pleasure to meet you.
Yes, well, thank you much. Thank you very much for being here. And well, like I said, I live in the Netherlands and have a small organization with women, and we try to also find our way in this crisis. What is it? Crisis, transformation? Maybe it's even a gift. I'm not sure yet. It's a little bit of both, I think. And well, what I'm trying to do is at least give some attention to the subjects that are on topic now. And like you said, get out of victimhood and try to make the best of it, to stay in your own inner flame and strength, and yes, to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. And yes.
Heidi, could I be rude and point out some things? It's not my intention to be rude, but I think that the words we're using are very important. And what you keep repeating is trying to, when that is not what you're doing, because you are actually doing a difference. Mm-hmm. And I think you should be proud of what you're doing. Also, a small organization, the key is in the small. The big organizations they get infiltrated right away and overtaken. So the real power is exactly in things that you are creating. Mm-hmm. So I would say take it to your heart and stand and be proud of what you're doing, because I honor you for that. And so get rid of the words try to, because that is not what you're doing. You are actually doing
it, yes.
Yes,
you're absolutely right. Mm.
And also, what is amazing in these times are the amount of incredible women. I mean, my God, because when you look at what we are facing in the world, it's distorted male energy. I'm not saying men. I mean, if you look at Thatcher or Hillary. I mean, Madeleine Albright, these type of individuals, not a lot of feminine energy there, but they might be born in a feminine body. I don't know what they are. But anyway, so it's distorted male energy that has got us into this place. And now we need, in many ways, the feminine energy to come in and help us heal this whole thing, because the feminine energy is so embracing and so considerate. And so this is where you come in. I'm bodifying it as well. I don't even know if that is a word, but I mean, bring it, the feminine energy into this in body, mind, and spirit to change this whole mindset, because people like this one in this type of body has messed it up. And we need to turn it around now. This is the time, you know, to let the feminine values come back so that there would be a balance, and then we can make a fantastic future for all of us.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that the balance between male and female energies, it's a little bit out of balance, because you see that there's nothing wrong with healthy male energy. That is absolutely necessary and important at these times. But we see now, especially in the Netherlands, it probably happens all over the world now, that the female energy is now, they're standing up like, don't you dare touching my children, don't you dare. This is like such a strong, powerful energy that comes up now. It's not only female, it is like a wolf waking up, and don't you ever step towards my children. And that is so strong. I think you can win any war with that. Of course, with the support of the male energy next side. Yeah.
Because I think for most of us, we have both sides inside, and it's a matter of finding the balance inside and then express that in different situations, like standing up like a wolf mother there, very male in one way, because it's like you step one step closer, I would bite your head off. That is normally what is called male energy, but coming from a woman, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I tell you, you know, the thing, crisis actor, when in many of these false flag operations where they have these incredibly awful actors that can lie down and scream and say, I'm dying here, with a bit of ketchup over them. Crisis actors, one of the reasons why crisis actors was invented and brought in on the stage of false flag terror was because of mothers. It was because of women, mothers of victims, real victims in these staged attacks. And the people that were carrying them out were traveling internationally, doing the same over and over again with real victims. But what happened was that more and more mothers of dead children, it doesn't matter if these dead children was like 54 and the mother was 92, you mess with a woman's child, oh my God, you will have them breathing down your neck and they will not back down.
Never stop.
And so it came, it was somewhere, I believe, after 9/11, around before the Boston bombing. That's when the crisis actors really stepped into action, because they found out that really we need to get rid of these women. We can't kill them all of them. You know, they tried with accidents and suicides. And after 9/11, there was a whole bunch of beautiful women that just said bye-bye from this earth because they were getting too close. So in came this whole concept of how to control all parameters, you know, and that's where they had, where they created this like a moving theater of terror, like a rock theater group that had been traveling around between NATO countries, carrying out the exact same show over and over again. Allah Akbar, drop the passport, ISIS flag, boom, all of these things. But it's just like watching Pink Floyd appear in Toronto, Melbourne, London, Rotterdam, Stockholm. It's the same theme, it's the same people, and these are the people that I have started, or not started, but I've identified more and more of them over the years. So it's like, come on, I know who's playing the bass, I know who's doing that, I know who. So it's like you can recognize, just like you can see Roger Waters on the stage in Montreux, it will be the same Roger Waters who's playing the bass in Melbourne, or maybe he's the drummer there, but it's still him. You know, so it was because of women, exactly the force you're talking about, where they could not deal with them. That force is too big. So they had to move it over into a theater version where they could control everything, including the victims, including the doctors, including all of them that they needed to control. So I really applaud that type of female power. At the same time, what the hell? How many years before somebody reacts? I mean, you live in Holland, you got Belgium, the Dutroux case. I mean, Holland and Belgium is the I don't want to say it. Yeah, I do want to. It's the butthole of Europe when it comes to
yes, it's absolutely true.
And it's like, we know the castles, we know the places, we know what's going on. What the hell? Why is no one doing anything?
Yeah.
Locations that, you know, I've been trying from Spain to organize to know, let's just pinpoint these locations and put people everywhere, taking photos of vehicles in and out, checking all the registrations plate, identifying the people coming in and out, you know, finding we could map this whole thing and neutralize it like this. The years passes on and on and on and on. Children disappears all over the place. I mean, when you hear of people coming out, giving testimonies of what's going on, it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh
yes.
my God. Why is nobody doing? And in your country, it's just down the road. I mean, I know in other countries as well, but it's just down the road. It's I can tell you now where some of it is going on, and it's sort of like I cannot accept that.
No, you know, it's very difficult to accept that.
So don't.
No.
Yeah,
we actually did map it. And we pointed out the places where all those things happened and all those underground tunnels were, and there is a whole map, and still the outside world just doesn't care in a way. It's and like they see what is happening, but for some reason their brain doesn't register the content of the importance of everything. It's a big mass hypnosis.
Where we can't wait for them to wake up. It's up to us. It's up to us. We had to take the responsibility. Yes. I'm like a one-man band. I've been down this road for 40 years where people have, you know, nobody had cared at all. But it's just like, I just cannot not do it. You know, it's like, and especially when it comes to children, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's so awful. It is so unacceptable what's going on.
Yeah, you can, I'm living as a Dutchman, living in Belgium again, but you feel the Belgium, very nice people, but there's a sort of mental slavery or something. It's very difficult to energize them, to have the noses to the right side. And I'm working here also for Virus Madness, so I'm the co-chairman of it. That is difficult to in Holland, is a difference between Holland and Belgium about that. But here in Belgium, it's very, very difficult. Sometimes, I've also a friend who's also from Holland, and we are the two who are taking all the Belgium with us. We have to organize some things, and it's very difficult. It's also a difference between I think the souls and all soul vibration. But,
difficult, not impossible.
Yeah, that's true.
It's there's no excuse for any of us, you know, for these things to continue. I mean, it ain't over till it's over. But while we're sitting there thinking and playing with our belly button and thinking somebody ought to be doing something, they are suffering. And anyway, so we just had to stop. It has to stop.
Yeah.
So Ole, knowing you have seen and studied so much of this evil and criminal behavior in the last, I used to say 30, 40 years, is it something you struggle with and, for example, bring to bed at night, every night when you go to sleep, or is it something you get used to? Or I almost dare not to say get used to, but is it something that, do you fight with that feeling every day?
No, not at all. Not at all. What I've come to over the years is an understanding that this is a battle on different levels. On a street level, in this 3D version, it is life and death, pain, torture, horror. On that level, it's one game. Then you have a spiritual level where there's a whole different thing going on, and where it's the battle between good and evil. That is, as far as I can see, that is what it's black, white, plus, minus, whatever it is. And that is needed in this so-called universe, matrix, whatever it is we're living in, round, flat, I don't know. But it's needed. You need left to be able to understand what right is. You need up to understand what down. You need evil to understand good. And then we're given this free will so that we can choose. Would you like to be a mass murderer? Would you like to be a saint? The choice is yours. You will have the consequences. There are law of karma. You know, you do that, okay, we'll smack you back, you know, because like it is a game to evolve for good, I would say. That's the general idea. But we have the option. I mean, you can go out and shoot 15 people in the street if you want, or chop them with a whatever, you know, it's up to you. But it has consequences. So on a street level, I am fierce. I will not back down, you know, because I judge the sin, not the sinner. And many of the people behind them are born psychopaths. You can't blame them. They're wired differently. They don't have empathy. You can't say you should feel empathy, you horrible monster. They don't have it. And nature has born them like that. That's it. Then you got sociopaths that have been destroyed by family, society, whatever, into the same behavior. These you can save. The other ones are put in this matrix for a reason, and maybe that reason is for us to evolve, because we're very slow, we're very lazy, we're very zombie-like in our way, and we just go for our own greed and pleasure and desires, and we don't care about food, you know, like it doesn't matter, who cares, torture children, I mean, really, what's for dinner tonight? You know, we're so much into our own world. So apparently we need these psychopaths to light a fire under our butt to say this. What are you saying they're doing? What are they? Because if we had reacted a lot earlier, they would never have gotten into these positions where they're carrying out this madness. We would have just said, absolutely no way. You want to do that? This is what you get from me. Go away and behave, or I'll put you on some island over there so you can play around with other psychopaths and do whatever psychopaths do to each other. Fine, you deal with that. Leave the rest of us alone. But we have not, absolutely not. No one has reacted. Oh, let's build capitalism, and I want a new house, and let's get a microwave oven. And in the meantime, these powers have just moved forward. So indirectly, on a higher spiritual level, we have to thank these individuals, because the bigger the asshole that you have in your life, the bigger a teacher as well. The worst of the worst are the biggest teachers. And that goes on a private, personal level as well. The people you have the most problem with are the ones that are your greatest teachers, if you choose to. Is it easy? No. Do I hate it? Yes. Is it true? Yes. It's like the ones you want to avoid, it's from there. They're pointing, they're pushing your buttons, saying, you are not healed there. You are still not strong there. I will keep pointing and pushing you until you heal. And if I say, well, bugger off, I don't want you in my life, and I kick that individual out, another similar individual will just pop up very nicely and say, try it again. Are you sure? So indirectly in this situation as well, Fauci, Gates, whatever you want to call these up, it's just another name of David and Goliath. You know, it's through all times we had assholes like that carrying out horrible things to get us to react and choose sides. And the scary thing in these situations is that it's not black and white. There's a whole scale of what is choosing sides of, because you have freedom fighters and you have absolute murderous individuals. You got people that become jail wardens, you know, prison guards. You have people that become torturers. You have people that become underground movement resistance. There's all of these different roles in the spectrum. And I would say in these type of situations where it's so extreme, it's like we have to show our real self. And I've seen that in war zones like in Iran. I was in Iran during the war of Iran-Iraq, where I saw this, you know, very close up. What type of personality is on that side, what type of personality is too weak to be on it, and chooses that, you know, there suddenly it becomes very clear. In a normal soft version, you don't see that, because people don't have to, they can put on a mask, they can, you know, I'm so nice and kind, but I'm totally off myself, you know, but I won't show you. But in situations like that, suddenly it becomes boom, 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 boom. And this is where we are being forced. So to answer your question, I have a tendency to give very long answers. I sleep very well at night, also because over the years, I've come to peace with that this might be my death, become my death. I know that I'm you know, pushing very powerful forces into the corner and exposing them. I know I'm not popular with them. Will it stop me? No. Has it scared me? Yes. Have I got a family where I'm terrified that something would happen to them? Yes. At the same time, it needs to be done. In my world, somebody needs to do it. And up until not long ago, there was not a lot of us around. So it's like, I've had a couple of 4 or 5 times where I thought that I was dying, you know, where I really had to, okay, this is it. Thank you, goodbye, world. And so it helped me come to the sort of look at my life and see, am I pleased? What am I pleased with? What am I not? And then once I was allowed to live a little bit longer, I sorted all of these things out, so that it's just like packing the bags, you know. So I've got my suitcase ready, symbolically, you know. I've cleaned my house, I've sorted everything. I got a pair of underpants and a halo ready for heaven. And if it happens, okay, the suitcase is there, I'm ready, and I've been prepared. When I go, I'm going to be super pleased with myself. I'm going to be happy and proud. Of course, I could have done some things better, no doubt about that. But I tried and I tried over and over again. And my intention, I know from the inside, was good. I more or less always meant well. And so that is the best I can do. And so after I came to that peace with myself, with my own death, then I sleep fine. Hiding is like people say, you got encrypted emails. Absolutely not. My address is on my website. I speak openly. I don't turn off my mobile. Oh, what if they hear you? I'm here to be heard. I'm here to be heard. I stand for every single word I'm saying. I can say it to you as well. I'm here now saying stuff. I mean, this is it.
Yeah. You have a good guardian angel, I think. A lot of angels, I think.
I mean, I get this question often, you know, why are you still alive? I think, well, thank you for asking. I don't really appreciate the question, but I can see the concern. It's like, it's almost like they say, but if what you're saying is true, then you should be dead. Well, I don't know. I can only say that I'm still here. And I think just like David here, David Icke, I think it's the same thing there, where it's like when you are unknown, you are, and if you have a lot of information in just one head, very dangerous information for them, the chances of you dying at an early age is bigger than if you get the spotlight at you. The more spotlight you get at you, and the more you get it out there, then if something then happens to you, it will just confirm what you said and amplify it. And I think one of the worst things, or one of the things that they are the most afraid of, so-called martyrs. You know, you kill someone, you think you got rid of him, and suddenly they become a legend. I mean, imagine if David Icke died in a car crash. Oh my God, a real car crash. Nobody would believe that it was a car crash.
That's true.
That could start a global revolution that he tried his whole life to do as a living individual. Once he's dead, that could be it. I've seen in many different countries where they chop the head of some beautiful you know, a poet or a musician or whatever, and they think, thank you, we got rid of that one. And suddenly, just like, oh my God, it becomes like a symbol for the resistance.
Yes.
And so that's what they fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why I'm still alive. I'm very happy I am. But also, when I'm selfish, I would like to be here a lot longer. But it's
mm-hmm.
But it's also the times when I have received threats. Right away, what I'm in, you know, it's intimidation. The thing I've spoken to citizens and people with former CIA or agents and operators and so on, they say if you get a death threat, it's intimidation. If they want to take you out, they just take you out. But if they send, you know, written stuff to you, it's just saying back down, back down. It's too messy for us to do something with you, you know. So we try to scare you off. So when I receive threats, I just give them to my sweetheart Kim, and I say, on a scale 1 to 10, how bad is it? If it's less than 8, I don't even read it. Or if I get attacked, which is not very often, by somebody, you know, and they go out publicly and say bad stuff on me, Kim checks it out. How bad is it on a scale 1 to 10? Less than 8, I don't need to look at it, because I don't want to interfere with my mind, because I know if I listen to that, I'm going to be upset, because it's often from someone that you thought you were close to or something. It comes really often in a sad way, you know, people you thought were your friends or whatever. So I don't want that to inflict my peace of mind.
No.
Wow.
I don't listen to it.
I know. I have a very difficult question about your life. How was your childhood? How did you become to what you are now doing? Did you have it at your childhood? You were very curious how the world was, or?
That is such a good question, Hans. And I tell you, up until a few years ago, I had one version of that question or answer, and now I have a totally different one. So I'll give you the old answer first.
Okay.
Into this world as a pure soul, I feel, you know, somebody who landed here with good intention of trying to save the world. That was when I was 4 years old. When people asked me, what do you want to be? I said, I want to be a stuntman or save the world. That was the two options. I think I combined the two actually now, but at least I'm trying to. But so I grew up in a quite colorful family, a former military. My father was in the Danish resistance movement, very dominant individual. And we're like a colorful bunch, not easy to know, like when you create gunpowder, you need different ingredients. Each of them on their own, fine. Put them together, not so fine. You know, that was my background. And I grew up as a very soft, weak individual. At the same time, I was practicing martial arts and all kinds of weaponry from an early age. You know, I had guns everywhere. I was like officially sniffing flowers and cuddling with kittens, but I was one hell of a gunslinger as well, you know, and axe throwing, knife throwing, you name it. It was. So what was that all about? I was a super expert on historical Wild West and the gunslingers, also the Native American Indians, where especially the Apache and the Sioux tribes were very important for me. I got, this is Cochise
from the
Apache tribe, and this is He-Dog from the Sioux tribe. I'm actually, one of the things that I'm most proud of in my life is that I've been adopted by the Apache Nation. But what happened, Hans, a few years ago was that my dad, who died in 1992, my mother died in 2013. And a few years ago, I had a dream, a very vivid dream, where my father came to me and said, the key is in the ring. The key is in the ring. And I was like, I woke up in the middle of the night like, the key is in the ring. The key, what does that mean? The key is in the, so I was like, that started me on a journey, because the thing was, my dad had a ring his whole life that I never really looked at. It was a silver ring with an amethyst in it. I never really looked at it because it was just part of him. And then I had this hate love for him when I grew up. I hated him and I loved him. You know, he was so dominant and so unfair. And so I think many people recognize themselves for that. But anyway, the last 4 years of his life, we made peace. He ended up in a wheelchair, became a lot softer. And when he died, I was the one who was sitting next to him. And he died in a beautiful way in a hospital bed, beautifully. But the only thing he had on him when he died was his ring. And that was the only thing I wanted to inherit from him, you know. So I got that ring. And I tried to wear it, but it never felt good. You know, it just didn't fit me. But I've been carrying it with me everywhere. And anyway, so when he came off, as far as my experience is that he actually came to me in a dream saying, the key is in the ring, the key is in the ring. I was like, what is it? But I knew right away what ring he was talking about. So I went up in the middle of the night, I found the ring and I started looking at it, and it's a US Air Force ring. And it's sort of like, what the hell is a Danish citizen doing with an American Air Force ring his whole life? That is not normal at all. And so I started looking into this more and more. Also, I was trying to find the year when this ring came from, because they have new editions every year from the US Air Force. And I couldn't find it because it was so worn, but it's somewhere after the Second World War, like in the early mid-40s up until around 1950, somewhere there, if I can spot it right. But the thing is, there's an amethyst in it, a purple amethyst. And when you look in what these different colors have different symbolism, you know, symbolizes stuff. And in the US Air Force, the ones with that exact stone are royalty or aristocracy. And we come from Farmer Brown. You know, it's like, what? So the more I started looking into it, the more it became more and more confusing, because I started checking out his birth certificate, didn't match up. The marriage certificate was very strange between my mother and him. They never wore wedding rings. His career, when I started looking into his career, there's about 8 years where he's just gone. He's nowhere to be found. And the thing was that he was in the Danish resistance movement in the Second World War during the Nazi occupation. And what happened was that in the end of the war, the Allies came in, and intelligence agencies like the OSS, that later became CIA, and MI6 went in and took control over the resistance movement while the war was still going on. And so they contacted people in Denmark and Norway, for instance, where they started a close working relationship with them. And then when the war ended, it seems like, I'm finding out now, that they were sort of headhunting the good people in these organizations. And what was later created, after NATO was created in 1949, by Rockefeller, is one of the power structures that is behind NATO. And NATO was the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was officially a defense organism, but it has turned into a terror tool, absolute terror tool. What I'm exposing all the time, NATO is involved, you know, and the CIA and Mossad, the same players over and over again. But in the Cold War, in the beginning of the Cold War, what somebody came up with, I don't know where the idea come from. I think it was Reinhard Gehlen, who was one of the German officers that was taken out from Nazi Germany through the rat lines, the Vatican rat lines, and then exported into the US and the South America. There was 1,600 of these very skilled individuals that was taken out and put in, just renamed, given new identities, and then continued to work with the exact same things. Everything from bioweapons to rocket science to intelligence agencies, all of that. It was part of OSS turning into CIA. It was also with the help of German intelligence experts and so on. So one of the things that NATO did was that they created a top ultra secret ghost army that has gone under the name of Gladio. And this Gladio was, the idea was to, because at that point, the big threat was from the East, Russia, during the Cold War. And so small countries like Holland, Belgium, Denmark, I mean, these was like a joke for Russia to take if they wanted. So NATO was created saying, well, let's hold hands, you know, if somebody comes and mess with us, you know, we'll join hands and we can fight the big bad boy in the East. So this is where the Gladio network was created, because the whole idea was to create hundreds of small cells of up to 6 to 10 people in each, small organizations, just like yours, Heidi, small organizations that could not be infiltrated and did not know of the bigger picture, all of them totally compartmentalized, all of them equipped with weapons, with fuel, with maps, with landmines, with bazookas, machine guns, ammo, radio equipment, maybe I said that already, everything needed in a war situation. And then these were positioned strategically all over the place in each and every NATO country. And the idea was that should someone invade any of the NATO membering countries, then the top of the creme de la creme and top of the government, royalties, whatever, would bugger off to London. And then from London, they could just pick up a phone and say, activate, and boom, you would have a fully equipped, fully armed, strategically perfectly positioned resistance movement or army in position like this, boom. I mean, when you think of it, absolutely brilliant. I think, absolutely brilliant. So, but it had to be super secret. And this is where this was built up in absolute secrecy. And it was only in 1990 when there was a big scandal erupted in Italy when this was discovered. And then in Italy, there was more than 10,000 people involved in this ghost army, all the way up to the top of the top of the top of the period of the government and so on. And then the scandal started spreading NATO country by NATO country, also involving Belgium and Holland and Denmark, where it so turned out that the exact same scenario had been set up. And in Denmark, every country had their own name of this ghost army. So in Sweden, it was Stay Behind, which is exactly a very symbolic name, stay behind when the other one buggers off, and then they are the ones taking the heat. In Denmark, it went under the name of Absalon. Gladio is the Italian name, but also the overall name of this whole organization. And so after the Second World War, at the most 500,000 Danes were involved in the creation of Stay Behind or Absalon in Denmark. Super secret, super secret. And I'm now finding out that every single one of my family has been part of Stay Behind, of this NATO. And that my dad was recruited by NATO and has been a secret asset his whole life, most probably his whole life up until the day he died, possibly, and financed by the CIA. It's like I'm finding out such bizarre things. You know, the more I look into this, it's every single where we lived was because of this network. The neighbors we had was because of the network. We were living there because of the neighbors. The people that came and visited us was part of the network. Family members that I never was able to figure out. Uncle Tom, who the hell uncle? That should be sort of the brother of somebody. How? No, but I never really got that understood. And my dad, he was the perfect individual because he was intelligent. He was ice cold. I mean, he had a very ice cold side to him. He was somebody that got things done. And I'm talking about brutal things as well. I believe that he actually killed people. Yeah. And, but what does that mean? If you're at war, you become a hero if you kill somebody. If you're at peacetime, you're a murderer. What the hell? It's the same act. So confusing. So, my dad was perfect also because he was not the top of the resistance movement. He was on sort of a level 2 type of thing. And he was a major. So he was not sort of like a front figure that would be known, like a colonel or a general or something. He would have been in the spotlight already. But the people they were focusing on were people that came up there and their career stopped at being major around there, boom, because too low to notice at the same time somebody very skilled if they were good. And so it seems like in the early 50s that they were transported to the US at Fort Bragg, where they went through all kinds of education and everything from assassinations to building up all kinds of things. And one of my father's friends, I have a photo of him. It's a photo of two people. It's my father's friend. He's standing there in a full military thing with a helmet and a bush on top of the head. Two people standing, speaking to each other, standing, looking at something. It's not a group photo. It's not a part sort of amplification of one piece of the photo. It's a photo of two individuals. Do you know who the other one is? Dwight Eisenhower, the Supreme Commander of the US military forces and the President of the United States before JFK. Yeah. And so the more I've looked into it, it's 5 people that I tracked down and that was close to my dad. Officially, only 2 of them knew each other, but I tell you, I have tracked them. They were at the same places at the same time and the same background, the same setup. These people knew each other, I tell you. And one of them went as a dentist to get a dentist education in the US, but unfortunately he failed. And so he was a poor medical student and got a job as an elevator operator. Okay, sounds okay. Do you know in what building? In the same building as Allen Dulles, the head of the CIA, and John Foster Dulles, the foreign minister of the United States. In that building, he was the guy going up and down between the floors. I mean, really, really, you know, and Montgomery came to when all 5 of them were in one location, Montgomery from the, and then my dad was, there's all of these years that I can't find him. You know, I can only go from the stories I was told when I was younger, and he was saying, yes, I did this, I did that, and so on. So I've been tracking him down. He's not there. He's not there. You know, he's not there. But I've got photos of him where he's got a uniform. Also, the way he's dressing is like intelligence officer. You know, it's not a military officer. It's more intelligence. And then somehow he, when he met my mother, he was living in a bus together with, behind a gas station together with his dog. In my world, that sounds a bit like a loser. I mean, that is not very like a babe magnet, come to my bus and I've got a dog as well. Do you know, it's like, that is not very fancy. And then this, what he's told us was that, yes, he was, it was him and another guy that had this gas station and they were really good at cleaning windows and filling up cars. So suddenly he was headhunted by Esso, which is Standard Oil, which is Rockefeller, yeah, and given a job as the head of Copenhagen over all of these gas stations. A major part of how the hell do you come from being a loser in a bus to the head of that? And then, because I remember when we were driving around, I was, you know, I was only a toddler, but I still remember some things, you know, and every single one that I remember were the so-called owner of, it was a franchise with these gas stations, you know, every single one of them were members or former members of the resistance movement. So I'm telling you, the Esso gas stations, that is part of the Danish Gladio network, where the gas stations is so crucial, because if you control the petrol, the gas, the fuel, you also control the intersections where they're located many of the times. You know, you can, the whole network, and I bet you that there were gun depots underneath these gas stations as well. Exactly the way. So these gas stations was crucial in this whole thing. And my dad was part of this whole thing. And the more I look into it, Hans, it's like, it might sound interesting, but it's also a family tragedy at the same time, because, you know, like I found like my dad had this, at the same time as he officially was a loser, he somehow got a Chevrolet Bel Air 57 brand new in 1957. That is like me driving up in a super Lamborghini, you know. Okay, so bus, loser, dog, and a Lamborghini. What? And so that we have these photos of this, and he used to say it was only him and Elvis that had that model. What? And okay, so I looked very closely at these photos, and my mother is in the seat, the front seat, and I got 2 photos of it. And in the background, there are 3 soldiers, uniformed soldiers, you know, with helmet and the whole thing. In Denmark in 1957, there should not be soldiers there, because my dad had nothing to do with the military at that time. So the more I tracked it down, I managed to find the exact spot where that photo is taken. And that photo is taken right outside the entrance to what is now a Cold War museum, which is an underground, the most sophisticated NATO base in Europe at the time. It's 2 kilometers of tunnels, 22 meters underground on the east coast of Denmark, Stevns, where, you know, the thing was, in the Cold War, the east coast of Denmark was frontline towards Russia, because Sweden was officially neutral. Finland had already given up. So that, and I've never understood that. It's also the entrance into the Baltic Sea, you know, so very, very important when it comes to strategy, the strategic position. And people, I've taken a guided tour there. I've been down in the tunnels, and very bizarre, you know, because I even found the exact spot where that photo was taken. And there's a tiny little white house on that side of the photo. That is where my father's boss in the Danish resistance movement was living, officially just as a farmer. And then you got like let's say 20 meters from his little farmhouse is the top secret entrance down into this NATO base. So I'm like, and officially they did not have any contact with each other after the Second World War. I mean, this is like 12, 15 years later, and there he is, parked his car right in between these two. And it's way off. It's way, way off. I mean, it's like you have to drive small little tiny roads and in and out, and there's a little farmhouse there, there's a little farmhouse there, and then just NATO's most super advanced spy base. And the guided tour I was given, the tour guide was explaining that during the Cold War, before Kennedy was killed, one of the first things he did in the morning, he said, "Any news from Stevns," which is that exact place, "Any news from Stevns." Then, now I even found like a dug down, what I believe is a weapon stash at the farm in Sweden. The reason we moved to Sweden was because of this whole thing, because I believe my dad was standing up against these forces when it was taken from being a resistance organism, really clever defense mechanism, turn into a terror tool in the mid-60s. And my dad stood up. There was a lot of people that died from heart attacks and stuff like that. And it seems like my dad evacuated us. I mean, we left Denmark overnight. We didn't even have time to say bye-bye to our friends. I was just a kid then. And it was the official story, well, your mother loves the Swedish butterflies and the Swedish forest. So, and we bought it. I mean, I cannot see how I could not, that I haven't noticed before now. But it's like, and we left like a villa that my dad was also given. I don't know where it came from. It was before I was born. Same with the car, and the villa just appeared like this. And so we were living there, and then we moved overnight out to a country house in the middle of absolute nowhere. I kid you not, 1 kilometer to the closest neighbor. Nothing. And the house was from 1778. and no water, no heating, no nothing, no toilet, no, we had to pump water by hand, all because my mother really loved Swedish butterflies.
Yeah, right.
So, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And I'm in the process of finding out that I've even spoken to Cody Snodgrass, who's a former black op for more than 20 years under the CIA, carrying out all kinds of operations all over the world, and who's been in this business his whole adult life until he became a whistleblower and has now turned his life to trying to expose everything he can. But anyway, so I was super confused in this period of time. So I asked Cody, who's been living a double life for more than 20 years. Not even his own family knew about it. Not his parents died without them knowing that he had this double life. And so he said, describe the whole. So I described, and he asked all kinds of questions. And then after a while, he said, well, I tell you this. He's got a really low bass voice, like Wild West type of voice. I'll tell you this. Your dad was a spook, and so was your mom. I was like, what? My dad, I can accept that. He said, no, your mother as well.
Whoa.
You must be kidding me. I mean, what are you saying to me? What are you saying to me?
How old were you then?
When I found out?
Yes.
It's only 2 years ago.
Whoa.
It's only 2 years ago. I'm still in the process of finding out. I had no idea. No idea. So what Cody said, he said, listen, look at your mother. Was she beautiful? I said, yes. He said, that's typical as an asset, honey trap. Beautiful women have always been used like that to extort information or get people in back and ambushes or manipulate or whatever. And also he said, your mother spoke 5 languages, correct? I said, yes. She was very good at translating. Yes, that was her whole life. She had all kinds of skills when it came to, these type of things. And also, I found documents that she was like a German correspondent. Stuff like, no, she had a beauty salon. I don't think so. It's like all of these things. And so when I look at the other 5 people that I'm tracking now, all of their marriages, very bizarre, because there was not a lot of feeling there. They were assets put together as a couple. They were chosen and volunteer. I don't know how, but like we are now creating a family as a shop window. And I grew up as the perfect family. We kept hearing that we are the perfect family. We're the perfect family. No, but what Cody says, us, the children, were brought to this world as part of a cover. And I would explain why my dad was not very much into kids, and very often there was like this bitterness about him lose his whole life disappeared because of us indirectly and stuff like that, because he's saved us, I would say, if I interpret what happened. I haven't gone into any great detail here, but you will see that he really negotiated for our lives to keep us out, because otherwise they hit the family and the asset at the same time, to destroy them, or they destroy the family to control the asset, So, but what happened was, instead of, it's a long story. So to answer your question, like I said, I have very long answers, is that I think that I was born into this world, living a double life that I was not aware of, but becoming very good at noticing when I was being lied to, or when things were not what they were being said out loud, manipulation, strange things, strange relatives, strange, why are we going on holiday here? We was going to go swimming, but where did Dad go? He went to get a newspaper. Hours later, he just appears from down the tunnel. Like these things where, as a child, I think they don't really notice, they don't see you as a problem, when you're too small. But now, when these memories are like, but wasn't but now I'm putting the thing together. And also the stuff that he left behind for when he died are from all kinds of, like some of it was from the Thule, the top of the top secret spy bases on the northwest coast of Greenland. We have got an old desk from that Air Force base. How the hell did that end up in our house? It's like, what? And we got like a big, what do you call it? It's like almost like a periscope, not from a submarine, but from a warship. And
Yes.
it's a German warship. And so how the hell did that come? But in the Second World War, there was this German warship that was damaged. And what Denmark did was that they took over it and got it into harbor, and they chopped it up in small little pieces. But what they did was they took the cannons and some of the equipment from this warship and brought it to this top secret spy base to protect it. So the cannons and these things that we have are from that ship. The cannons are at the Cold War Museum. These ones are in my sister's home in Sweden. My dad was always complaining about, I can't hear because of the cannons, the cannons destroyed his hearing. But he was in the cavalry. And it's like, what cannons? And then, the more I put it together, and I've been in where these cannons are, it's totally enclosed. If you fire something there, oh my God, I can imagine it's just been like absolutely incredible.
Wow.
So I think that I was brought to this world in a bizarre, strange situation that somehow has given me this skill of seeing things that other people don't see. Because I'm like, if you put me in the kitchen, I'm a disaster. I can even burn spaghetti. If you put me here in this specific area, I'm Rain Man. I don't know. I can't remember chord progressions. I'm a musician. I wish I could remember stuff, easier. I can't remember lyrics. I can't remember anything. If you ask me anything in this area, I know what type of underpants the JFK had when he was shot, I know the tire tracks. You ask me, what is that? And I think somebody up there said, okay, let's fine tune this individual into this specific area. Unfortunately, he has to let go of a lot. He can't be very useful in other areas. So let's keep the bugger in this compartment and then amp his brain to the maximum here and go for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel that I'm here for a reason, and I'm just trying to do my best.
Wow.
And that was the answer.
Wow, what a story.
Yes, incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, what I find interesting is what comes to my head is the theme of forgiveness. I can imagine that maybe you are also angry or disappointed in whatever way, and that you seek for forgiveness for what happened, what your parents did, and that you never knew about it, and you only found out about it after they died. And I heard you in another podcast speak about Mahatma Gandhi and him being capable to forgive. And I always admired Gandhi since I was a young girl. He was so different in his energy and his kindness and non-violent attitude. And I think it inspired everyone, but yet I also find it difficult to stay in that state, especially now, although, I know it's best to align myself in that quiet and patient state of being. But I also feel frustrated when it sometimes, all those negative energies go through me, especially now in these times. And I think it's also part of those archon energies and frequencies that step in. And what I wonder is, are you able to forgive what happened, and or is there still frustration and darkness that needs to be purified because of what happened in your childhood and because of what you are doing now in your life, in your research?
Anger has not been such a major part in my setup. Sadness, depression, that's a different one, but that has been dominant. I don't know. I think it's just different avenues of the same, it's the same direction, but different levels, how to deal with it. And so when it comes to, if you ask specifically about my mother and father, it's more confusion, because I feel that, you know, especially since they were in that car before I was even born, outside the entrance, and my mother is there as well. So that means that every single conversation we've had, every time when they've said, we listen, you kids need to leave the room, we have to have some adult talk, which was standard many times. What were they talking about? You know, and like these things that we grew up quite poor, and then people could come, you know, they just appeared, and suddenly I saw my dad give them a stack of money like this. You know, there was this like, what, and confusion, and so it's, but also I used to dislike my father in many ways, you know, because he was a bitter, he was grumpy, he was you know, very, his temper was ruling the family. We had what we called you know, like I don't know how to say that, dictatorship, you know, like it, not dictatorship and not democracy. We could do anything we wanted as long as we did as he said. You know, it was like, it was a one ruler, and there was no way that we could get around that. And extremely frustrated. And his answer was no for no. There was never room for explanation, discussion. No for no. That's it. Boom. And but now I'm starting to see also that I feel a lot more gentleness towards him, because now I understand, you know, that at times he was armed. He had a pistol, and we were living out in the middle of nowhere in Sweden. Why would you walk around with a gun? But now do you know, like at one time, I remember when we were kids, there was this boy that came from East Berlin and stayed a summer with us for no reason. And I'm like, my parents have never been, yes, let's help the poor, you know, children in East Berlin. I believe now that something was going on in East Berlin. Maybe they took the child as hostage to do, and then it was just sent to someone. You take care of this kid, just feed him, hold him there until we've dealt with this, and then send him back, or maybe take him out, whatever, I don't know. But so there were all of these strange behaviors from my dad's point of view, where I think that he was forced into them many times. Also, I think that you know, when we moved that quickly to Sweden, I mean, like I said, it was overnight. It went very, very fast. And my dad and mom was interviewed by a local newspaper, and I got these newspaper cuttings. And in it, they say that they had been planning to escape from Denmark for 5 years. I mean, but then they changed it and said, no, escape from the big city. But they say, it says exactly like that. And then he changes to the big city. The reporter wrote exactly what he said. And I found that really interesting, because that means 5 years that they've been trying to get out of this network, because they've been feeling something is weird, things are changing. And then when we left, it was a member of the former member of the Danish resistance movement that drove us to Sweden. My dad stayed behind and was dealing with his bosses from ESO, Standard Oil, Rockefeller, I think Gladio. And where I believe that he was dealing with them, this is what Cody also says, that he was negotiating for his life and us, the safety of us. And he said, what they had done, he said, this is standard procedure. He has to corrupt himself so that they can control him to be able to stay alive. So he said, they would have done something, they would have got him to do something so that they could at all times control him if he would get out of order or whatever. And that would then make us survive. We didn't even know it. We were out there busy following butterflies and smelling Swedish forest, you know, like. And so what I've tracked down, and just a few days before we left, there was a woman in her 60s that was murdered just 300 meters from where we lived at a gas station. And this gas station was in a very, very crucial point. It was the entrance to the international airport of Kastrup of Copenhagen. Very, very bizarre airport. I tell you that there's so many weird things going on there. And we lived like we were the second villa from the airport. I mean, we and the airport, it was like, boom. That was also the villa that was given to him. But I believe that that is still, it's a cold case, that murder of this woman. But she was the owner of this gas station, and she was wealthy. It was a gas station that had been going handed down in her family. And I believe she did not accept to sell, or she would not be forced to do anything. And I believe that this network really wanted to control that position. And after that, also after her death, it was taken over by this network, you know. So I think that my dad was forced to go there and try and force her to give it up. And maybe she died when he tried to force her, or that he was there to kill him, that he was forced to kill him. And that hammer that she was killed with my dad's fingerprint, was then put in some safe somewhere, saying, "Dear Mr. Dammegard, we got you by the balls. You behave or else." And if, so his whole life, there was this bitterness around him. And in Sweden, what he did there was to build up a Swedish part of the network there, because every single one of the farms around us was bought up by people from the Danish resistance movement, and a Swedish spy as well. It's unbelievable. I mean, I'm in the process of soon writing a book about this whole thing, because that I've been going on tour many times, and on some of these tours, I started talking about this. And in the audience, multiple times, people have stepped forward saying, "My God, you're describing my life. That is my grandfather. That is my father. That's my aunt. That's my..." And so somebody said to me, by you sharing your story, you're helping to heal hundreds of other, because so many people in Holland, Belgium, all of these NATO countries, it's the exact same scenario, the exact same secret network. And then in the mid-60s, this whole thing was turned into a terror tool, and you were very close to, you were among the first targets to be hit with the Brabant gang. Do you know, when they were driving around shooting people in supermarkets? That was one of the first actions by Gladio, where they turned, it was the CSA's strategy of tension, how to inflict pain and fear into the population by random violence. It had to be random so that it could affect anyone. That's why they hit absolutely innocent people in supermarkets, train stations, the Bonner train station. So many of these alleged terror groups, you know, Baader Meinhof, the Red Army, absolutely not true. It's Gladio. It's Gladio. And this is what I'm up against to this very day. I go on location, I think, oh, it's Allah Akbar, you know, here and there. No, absolutely not. I go on location, I'm up against the same forces. And so indirectly, it's almost like I am part of a generation who are here to heal what our parents' generation, how they damaged us. And now there's another. So I'm really in a very interesting situation where I'm friends with, for instance, St. John Hunt, who's the son of E. Howard Hunt, who is directly one of the key players in the JFK assassination, and also whose mother was murdered by Richard Nixon. You know, so yes, it's bizarre. It's bizarre, but we are sort of a group of people that are children of these people from the Cold War, where the world turned into on a very, very negative road. And we are now here to turn it around and get us back in balance.
And to heal, yes.
Heal.
So going back to that subject of forgiveness and healing, is it a choice that you make, or rather a quality that one is born with? Or do you think that you are able to heal and forgive when you have a childhood like this? And
you see, I didn't even answer the question, so thank you for letting me.
I will remind you.
It is. I think you can't do it in your head. You cannot do it in your head.
That's true.
It is, I wouldn't say a skill, but I think you get better at it the more you practice it. And in one way, it's a totally selfish thing, because I mean, I can hate people, that are even dead. I mean, I've been going through a lot of things that would be what people could call traumas. I don't like the word trauma, because nowadays it's like a trendy word. Well, I was traumatized this, I was traumatized. So I don't use the N word, I don't use the F word, and I don't use the T word, which stands for trauma. I see it as traumas are very intense experiences that are charged with a lot of emotion that can be used for something incredibly powerful if you choose to get out of victimhood and turn it around, yes, or destroy you. And traumas is I'm still healing.
Still a victim. Yeah.
It's a tricky one. But one of the ways out of it is by forgiving. And forgiveness it's a tricky one, because it's multi-layered as well. It's like an onion where I think I've forgiven, and then it comes up again in a different situation, and it comes up. So, but I think that I've been blessed with having a personality where hatred is not very dominant and anger is not so dominant, where sadness and depression is easier to deal with when it comes to forgiveness. If you hate someone, it's a very extreme to get over to forgiveness. But my depression, that is sort of like a soft, pink and fluffy version of the same way of reacting. So what I can tell you is forgiveness is the way. It is the way out of it. And this is also the more you become up on a spiritual level, where you see that really, had I not been traumatized by that, I wouldn't have been so understanding and feel some empathy for this person who is suffering over there. So it's like, it's like you can see it as a scar, but you can also see it as an incredible lesson if you manage to turn it around. But victimhood is the one that makes the difference. If you're a victim, you're powerless.
Yes.
And you're blaming. They did that to me. They did. That's true. They did. But so what? I mean, I'm not talking to people and say, get over it. That's not what I'm saying, because I know, after all of these years, I'm still dealing with things that happened like 40 years ago. And like, come on, how many workshops, how many therapy hours, how many things, and still, it's like my sweetheart calls me a work in progress, and I agree. So,
yeah.
Well, long answer, but it's not easy, and I think maybe we all have to do it in different ways. And what you have to do is you have to face the shadows. You have to face them. You cannot avoid them. But the beautiful thing with fear and shadows is that behind the fear, behind the shadows, there's a door.
Yes.
There is a door. And your fear will show you, I used to be so terrified of speaking in front of people. Shaking, crying. It's not that many years ago. I avoided funerals. I avoided birthdays. Just if they would ask me to stand up and say a few words, oh my God, I would rather die. Then I faced it, and look, now my whole life is, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
But that's very symbolic of these things, that if you meet it, then on the other side, there's a diamond.
Yes, that is absolutely true. I have done much inner work in the last so many years, and like breath work and ayahuasca and all those sacred medicines and body work, and to try to step more into my inner flame and the line in my center to get out of victimhood and traumatized childhood and all that. And what I experience now is that you win some and you lose some, and at the end you have to also make a decision on what timeline you want to go on in your life, and that is also where you find your own truth. And I don't think there's such a thing as the truth. It is a decision that you also make. Okay, am I going there or there? Am I going to stay a victim for the rest of my life, or am I going to step out of it and mean something for the outside world?
It's victimhood is wonderful. I mean, I used to be a super victim. But the thing is, after a while, people get bored. You know, it's like, oh my God, are you saying the same story again? Really? Really? You know, year in, year out. Okay, yes, I heard it over again. You know, so it's like, so you, in the beginning, you get the reward of people, oh, I feel so sorry for you. Or, you know, like, oh, and I'm so important because I have this special therapist. My trauma is so much worse than anyone else. She can't even handle it. She can't solve it. It's that special. Okay, super victim. That is one. And many people live their life like that. But I find it to be, it's like driving around with a flat tire. It's not really helping you. It's not really helping you. And then, so if you can manage to start seeing it from a different point of view, and it's just like, turn it around through breath work, through ayahuasca, through bufu, through whatever it takes. I mean, you name it, I've done it, you know? And so you asked about forgiveness before. Where does the forgiveness come from? It's 1,000 different things joined together, you know? And then other people choose, no, it's uncomfortable. I don't want to look at these things. Okay, fine. But then it would be harder for you maybe to forgive. And then it would be a lot easier for you to stay a victim. And you would be pretty useless to yourself and other people around you as well. And also the worst thing with victims is that you pass it forward. If you are a victim, you would give that state of mind to your children, or you will, to be a victim, you need somebody to be the perpetrator, and then you will turn people around you into saying, oh, they're the bad boys. He is doing this to me. And then you break up with the guy and you go to the next one that will do the same thing to you. So who is doing what? Who's doing what? Yeah. And this whole thing about two to tango is so true. So you have to become aware of it, like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then step out of it. The more I'm really trying to be aware of my mind, and, you know, it's so easy to switch into it in different situations or get triggered. And so look at the triggers. What triggers you? What is that activates, and what is it activating? And then take responsibility for that, because I'm sure it's when it gets triggered, it's not the first time in your life. But the guy that's standing next to you is not getting triggered. So what is it in you that get triggered? And that's what the Native Americans talk about, the Wetiko virus, you know, that is just trying, wherever you're weak, it'll creep in and start taking over your mind. So you, instead of, like, when you get triggered, in one way, we should be grateful. Thank you so much for being an absolute pain in the butt. I now see, I feel it. You said that horrible word, and I felt, I'm starting to, where's the trigger? It was somewhere here to the right. Can you please say that again? Please insult me again. And then, okay, got it. You know? And then the next time that person says something to you, if you've dealt with it, you will not be affected the same way. That's the opposite of being a victim. So you hate that person or see him as a teacher, and not easy sometimes. Oh.
Yeah, that's true.
What to do?
Yeah, you can see now there are a lot of people are feeling victimized, but now it's happening. But did you expect what now is going on worldwide, COVID-19? Did you expect it? What?
I could go on like for 6 hours now. But no, I did not. But I do believe that I was a very big part of stopping a plan that was much, much, much bigger than Corona. Yeah. Corona, the way we see it now, is a soft and pink and fluffy version. It was meant to be so much bigger. And please, if I can just refer to, if it's still up there, because I get shut down everywhere for hate speech, go figure. It's called Ole's most important video ever. And in it, I described what I stumbled across and how I and many radio hosts around the world helped me expose a massive, massive plan of 39 coordinated attacks that was supposed to go down on October the 23rd and 24th, 2019, where the whole idea was to combine it together with the coronavirus. And but by this exposure, NATO had crisis meeting. The whole thing just escalated into a very, very big thing that stopped all the mayhem part of it. And the only thing that was unleashed on the world was the coronavirus 2 months later. And it's because all of the mayhem part was taken out, that it was in 5 cities. It was Manchester, London, Paris, Barcelona, and Rotterdam, where these 39 coordinated attacks were planned. The Rotterdam was the port to knock out the food import to the whole of Europe, creating famine within a week. It was a massive, massive operation that went under the name of Operation Sea Eagle that was planned to, it was like an European 9/11 on steroids. I mean, it was incredibly big. And the whole idea was, I don't know if I can say these things. I'll just take a few. The idea, I believe, was that at the time of the same time that this was planned, October the 23rd and 24th, I found out on October the 21st. So I had like 36 hours to spread the whole thing out there before it went down. And thank God we managed to stop it. But only 5 days before was the event 201 in New York, which was the whole rehearsal and drill of the coronavirus being planned. And at the very same time, there was the so-called World Military Games in Wuhan, of all places in China, where 10,000 soldiers from 104 nations were there. I believe what was being planned was, as you know, they always have a drill before a force-back terror attack. And here the drill was the event 201. The idea was that on October the 23rd and October the 24th, they would unleash 39 coordinated attacks in Europe, all NATO countries, where it would create absolute mayhem in Europe. And if you don't know how many 39 coordinated attacks is, I will now demonstrate. Boom, 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 and boom. That is a lot of chaos, including were 2 hits against the power plants in Sweden, 1 water power plant and 1 nuclear power plant called Forsmark, and a big earthquake drill in Albania, Croatia, and Serbia. All of it combined at the very same time with the duration of 36 hours. Can you imagine the mayhem? So this happened exactly at the time of the Brexit referendum, meaning had this happened in England, they would have just shut the whole thing down and said, very sorry for your protection and security. We just had to say, you have to stay indoors for as long as we want. There will be military in the street everywhere. You will be locked in. There will be no demonstrations, no referendum, and we're very, very sorry. Paris, France, exact same thing, but with the Yellow Vest movement, they would do the exact same thing. Sorry, no demonstration. No, we have to shut down everything. Absolute lockdown. And Barcelona, same thing there. Catalonia has been trying to leave Spain for ages. Same thing there. The power structure, major problem with these things, you know, because they want to keep them in their grip. The European Union, their creation. NATO, their creation. The World Health Organization, their creation, and so on, and so on. And so when this was aimed, and it was also the 24th of October was the United Nations Day, which means also had some of these attacks been aimed at the United Nations, which I can guarantee you they were, and the NATO headquarters in Brussels would have been targeted, because that would then have justified military intervention. Just as they did with the Pentagon on 9/11, there was a reason for a military target, because otherwise they couldn't justify that to call in the cavalry. So here, same thing. So I believe that the World Military Games have been since 1947. They were created at the same time as the CIA, the Kent OSS. We were talking about that before. NASA was created and the CDC. The CDC is based, it was built up with the Nazi scientists and have been the center of every single swine flu, Ebola, SARS, MARS, the whole shebang has been coming from them. They own the patents. They are pumping out the numbers. And the whole thing is organized from the CDC in Atlanta, Georgia. And they have been in bed with CIA from day one, 1947. So here, and the World Military Games exactly created at the same time. They're like the military Olympic Games. So they were in Wuhan exactly when all of this mayhem was supposed to be unleashed on Europe. So I'm speculating now, but what I think happened was that, the idea would be to boom, 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 boom in Europe. Then all these 104 nations would say, oh my God, we need our boys back home and girls in uniform, bring them home. So they would then urgently fly back to 104 different nations, unknowingly bringing the virus from Wuhan, where it just magically appeared from a fish or a bat.
Yeah.
So in 24 hours, 104 nations could be told to have been infected. Oh my God, bad luck. Can you imagine? Oh, we messed, but that was the whole idea. And then from then on, you could have the whole world in martial lockdown in one go. And by the way, shut down the internet as we know it, because Akbar, and the passport, ISIS flag, the whole shebang, they would have been using officially Twitter, Instagram, all of these things, So for your protection, very sorry, you see how dangerous it is. The terrorists are using it. So we just need to shut down the internet, which is their wet dream on steroids. And then they would release a commercial version where they can decide exactly what we're allowed to see, and we had to pay for it. The same story as always. But what happened was that when I discovered, I'm not going to go into so much details, but I stumbled across some incredible evidence that showed this whole thing, but before it happened. So I had somewhere between 24 and 36 hours. And so what I did was I went out to so many different radio stations for 12 hours straight and asked them I said, this is what I found. I'm not sure, but this is what I suspect is being planned. Please, if you find this of any value, share it, spread it to as many as possible, because the only chance we have is to aim the spotlight at that spot so that if enough of us know about it, then the blowback for them would be too much of a negative kind if they do it, So after 24 hours, I checked, and it turned out that around 200,000, 250,000 people had seen these warnings from all of these different big shows and whatever. And people, fantastic people all over, had started dubbing them. So I have like a Dutch version, I have a French version, I've got a Greek version where people have said, well, there's this weird Dammegard, he's warning about this, but in French, whatever. So they were doing their job. Fantastic. So on October the 23rd, the time came, absolutely nothing happened. And I was like, okay, maybe I was totally wrong. Maybe I'm just going to stand here, look like an absolute idiot. Not a problem, not the first time. So then I was contacted by a freelance journalist in Brussels, which is also, where the headquarters of NATO is, and where Mossad has got an office in the very same building. Can you believe it? I mean, it's unbelievable. Anyway, so he said, I've been working here for years. I have very good contacts with Intel and military Intel, the whole intelligence community. And we've been feeling that something major has been building up for months, but we have not been able to understand what it is. Then we saw your warning and suddenly everything fell into place. So he said, are you aware of what's going on in Brussels right now? I said, I have absolutely no idea. Tell me. He said, all the defense ministers of NATO have been called to a crisis meeting in Brussels right now. His words, and it's all because of your warning. Okay, I was like, that is amazing. That is amazing. I mean, because once you start seeing what NATO is, it's a death machine. And I mean, all of us that are involved with NATO should just be so ashamed that we haven't stopped it, man. Anyway, so I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Maybe we managed to jam a steel rod into the gearbox of this horror machine, you know. Then a few hours later, I was contacted by a guy that said, have you seen a website? It's a very well-respected website called voltairenet.org, where presidents and prime ministers, they write the articles. I said, no. He said, check it out. So I did. And they had a big article saying NATO on the brink of implosion, NATO falling apart from the inside. I thought, wow. Then a few hours later, another guy contacted me and said, have you seen all Israeli embassies and consulates are closing down globally right now because of a general strike? I was like, what the heck? I mean, I'm not saying, I can't prove that they're connected. I'm saying they happen, bam, 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 bam. And when you look at Mossad's involvement, I mean, they were the ones that invented so-called terrorism. They are the ones that showed how terror is carried out. I was like, well, I can tell you that. Are you telling me that the Israeli staff of all staffs around the world have been able to globally arrange for a general strike for better wages so that they could shut down every single consulate and embassy around the world? Israeli staff? I don't think so. I don't believe that. Anyway, but I've got it. I've got the documents. I got the newspaper article. Anyway, and then I was contacted by another person in the US, and he said, are you aware of what's going on? I said, I have no idea. And so he said, well, Vice President Mike Pence and the Secretary of Defense have just been called back urgently to New York from a trip in the Middle East for an urgent meeting in Washington, D.C. Nobody knows why. This was bam, 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 like this. And then Donald, with a strange hairdo, stepped forward and had a press conference where he said, listen, we've just managed to kill al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS. And I say, Donald, that is very well done, especially when you think of that ISIS is the creation of the US State Department and Mossad with the funding of Saudi money. So well done, well done. Only a slight little problem. This is the fourth press conference when you step forward saying that you killed him. So make up your mind or believe in reincarnation. I mean, something bizarre is going on here. So what was that? I don't know, but to me, it smelled a lot like a diversion, you know, suddenly too much attention going on over here. Boom, look over to the left, you know, buy Greenland, build a wall to Mexico. What is that? Diversion, I would say. I mean, it's like the whole world looks that direction. So they managed to kill al-Baghdadi for the fourth time. Well done, well done. And then Jens Stoltenberg, the former prime minister of Norway, who is now the head of NATO, had a press conference. And that job he was given for his part in the mass shooting in Utøya in Norway, that I can guarantee you, he was very, very vital in that plan. Not that he was doing the shooting, but the whole thing. And so he had a press conference. It only lasted a few minutes. And he was talking like this. Welcome to the bed. That is not how he speaks normally. This is what he sounded like. He was shitting himself. Sorry, my friend. Something major was going on. All of these things happened. Bam, 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 around these days. What I was not aware of was 5 days earlier was the event 201. Where the whole thing, and I believe, just like I said before, that all of these things were meant to be coordinated. So absolute mayhem, including starvation and earthquakes and radioactive downfall from Sweden coming over Europe, you know, all of it claimed radioactive downfall. If you control the media, you can claim whatever. How many people know radioactive downfall? You will be dead if you walk outdoors. It's a perfect one. You know, how many of us have got Geiger meters at home? Tick, 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 tick. And not a lot, you know. So you can just say, and but anyway, so what I believe happened, I'm speculating now, but how I think that these things were connected was that due to this exposure and the stopping of the mayhem part of it, NATO had this crisis meeting
all of the defense ministers. And what was decided was there's too many people aware of this. It's going to be absolute so negative, the impact. If we push the trigger and 250,000 people are standing watching us when we do it, it's like, this doesn't work. You know, all of these type of operations is only efficient in the dark. It's the same with all type of criminality. It's only in the shadows that they can pull it off. So I believe that a decision was taken to stay under the radar, wait till this blew over, and then wait for a diversion for the world to look the other way. And then the only thing that they had left was the virus. So what better diversion than Christmas and New Year's Eve? You know, so everybody forgot about everything, and suddenly everybody was involved with Christmas presses and Happy New Year and getting drunk and a head over. And so when was the first case of COVID or Corona? The first Corona case, January the 1st. January the 1st. Now they say, no, there were cases in October. That was not the first story. On January the 1st, I think interesting date as well. Boom, that's when they released the but then the whole thing that has come and hit the world has been so weird and so soft and so strange, and the numbers and nothing makes sense because the whole mayhem part was taken away. That's because we were not supposed to even look at that. The virus was only there as part of the operation, and the virus was only there to get us to take the vaccine. And the vaccine was there from day one. That was this whole thing about them working day and night. Really, let me sleep for a while. It's absolute bullshit, to say it mildly. It's problem, reaction, solution.
Yes.
So the same, but the solution was there from day one. The so-called vaccine, which is a super biological weapon that the world has never seen anything even close to that horror. I mean, when you look at what's in that, oh my God. So how to get the world to accept to take it? You need to create a massive problem to be able to do that. And that's why this whole thing was created. So the virus has never been a problem. Fear has been the real virus. And then the vaccine is the weapon that we should avoid at all costs, including the PCR test, because now more and more is coming forward that the PCR tests are part of the problem, that they are actually infecting you as well with all kinds of horror crap. Horror.
Wow.
So that was a little story for you.
Yeah, that is massive information. Wow.
Yeah, but I have a question. How can the government, like the Prime Minister of Holland, how can they believe this?
No, but they don't. They don't.
Oh.
Not at all. Come on, Hans.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you have to believe anything to be corrupt? No, it goes under the name of Agenda 21. That's the whole, the code for how to get everyone to stay in one line. Agenda 21. And so Agenda 21 is, once again, I mean, I think it's more than 190 countries that officially have signed that piece of absolute, I don't know what to call it. Agenda 21 was created. The architects of that was another Prime Minister of Norway, who was also involved in the blowing up of the government building and the mass shooting out there, Gro Harlem Brundtland. Bilderberger, all of them are Bilderbergers. She was the one given the task, together with Morris Strong, who is the architect behind global warming, and also many of these other agendas, and also one of the creating forces behind the Clintons and other things. Morris Strong, very, very spooky individual, to say the least, very skilled in this apocalyptic theme for the world, you know. So key people in that. And Agenda 21 is for our protection. The state, the global state, will own all land, all water, all air. You, dear civilian individual, for your happiness, will not be allowed to have any private property, including your children, that will be property of the state. I kid you not, that is what it says. 2/3 of us is bye-bye, chop, chop, chop. And the rest of us into smart cities. That is the whole push for 5G, is to be able to get these smart cities working, because they need very fast bandwidth. And 5G is only the first. 5G is a whole different ball game than 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G.
Yeah.
This is millimeter military technology that is so harmful to anything living, but they need it to be able to get smart cities working. Because what they're pushing, and we're talking about the New World Order agenda here, it's just called different names. So now it goes under the name of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It's the same shit anyway, it's the same crap. But so, and now we have then players like Fauci and Gates and these type of games, and they're just players on a lower level, but they're very important in this current situation.
I would like to the other day I saw you meeting with Beth Martens, which was very inspiring, by the way, and I really loved it.
Thank you.
It was very nice, and in that conversation,
so nice,
yes, she's a nice person, but the conversation was very special, and in that conversation you said that we would soon transcend the situation around traveling with COVID passports and all that weird stuff in not so long time. And would you like to say more about that? Because what you meant there, I noticed that I sat straight in my chair when you talked about it, but it was very short. And I felt hope when you said that, and you seem so optimistic. But it's also a massive problem that we have here. So do you think that there is some sort of way out in a short term or maybe mid-long term?
Read my lips. I have no idea. That's from my mind. Read my heart. Absolutely not a problem. Absolutely not a problem. How is it going to do? And this is, I don't know how you interpret that I had a solution, because that I don't. But
no, not really a solution, but you said we're going to transcend that. So I felt like,
for sure. Yeah. It's like there's been, if you look at what's going on right now, it's management by fear. It's the same as the mob uses. It's the same as all organized crime has been using forever. And military powers, dictators, whatever. They try to scare us into panic mode.
Yeah.
And if you control media, you can tell anything. You have to do this, or else what? Or else what? The thing is, so at this point, I would say that thanks to so many people becoming aware, I don't like this awakening thing, because I know for sure that I'm asleep in certain areas, but I am pretty aware in this area. So more and more people are becoming aware of what's going on, which is a massive problem for this dark empire that have been sitting there playing with their belly buttons and just thriving in their own greed and desires and being able to pull it off without anyone noticing. Now, suddenly millions of people are becoming aware on a daily basis. How are they going to stop it? How are they going to stop it? So they have a problem, because if they press too hard, they have uprisings, they have revolutions going on. If they don't press too hard, it's too slow. We will, because when you look at it, they're in the thousands. Really, they are in the thousands. Okay, they are in key position. They're still in the thousands. We are billions. We are billions. So how do they control us? I would say that most of the things that have given you concern about the situation has been given to you through a black screen in front of you. It's not from you walking out in the forest, seeing stuff that is scaring you. It's not through you look out the window. That's not what is scary. It's information being pumped digitally at you through a sewage channel known as media. Yeah, but it's alternative media. So it's, controlled opposition. Who can you trust? Of course, they will infiltrate that as well. So the whole idea is to get you fearful and where they can control you. And I heard this fantastic presentation the other day of a Swedish guy who said that it's 3D, 4D, and 5D. He said that in 3D, where we have been living for generations, many, many generations, we believe in government. We believe that these forces are there for our good. We believe the police. We believe all of these things. We believe that people like myself is absolutely mad and crazy and saying bizarre stuff and should be stopped and put in some mental institution. But when you raise the awareness and the frequency, you get up into 4D where everything still looks the same. But that's when you start becoming aware of, like, wait a second, this doesn't really match up at all. I mean, children protection services, and they're kidnapping children and stealing children. I mean, what? And that guy who just just lost like $2.3 trillion, and then suddenly his career is going upwards, where you would have been fired had you parked your car wrong. You know, like, it doesn't make, and this is where we start becoming aware of something bizarre is going on, and that everything is upside down. It's actually 180-degree upside down. So in 4D is where inner work is becomes so important, because that is where all of these feelings also comes up of anger, despair, hatred, fear, all of these things, and a lot of sadness and loneliness, and all of that comes up here, because like nothing of what you believed in 3D is true. And it's in 4D where these controllers have been all the time, and where they have been trying to, through media and fear, push us down so that we stay in 3D in a lower frequency. But 5D, for the ones that manage to continue up, and I believe that this is where we're going now, whoever is on the spiritual journey, 5D is where suddenly you discover all is one. It's absolute unity, beauty. All of this is just a theater stage where we've been playing out life, and we've been believing our stories and our films and theater plays, you know, as real, but they were not. And that's where the beauty comes in, where you suddenly can work for the oneness of everything. And I mean, I can't wait for it. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting way of describing it, because this is also where we are being faced with that many of our loved ones have chosen to stay in 3D while we are in 4D, and they are seeing us as the problem. Yes. And there's this separation going on here. And there was this bearded guru type of guy in 2010, I think, who he said that in the year of 2012, it's not that the world will end, but that it is like a train station and a train. And you have to choose, will you stay at the station or will you get on the train? He said, by the year 2015, the train will have started gaining momentum and move away. If people at the station chose to, they could still manage to get running and get on the train. The year 2020, not a chance. The difference is so monumental. 2021, where we are now, there's not a hope in at all. You cannot reach people who have chosen to stay in 3D. I'm saying we are also 3D, 4D. It's just pure. If you're a masochist, go for it. But if you don't like pain, then bless them. Accept that you're just on different paths. No judgment. Everybody is trying to defend their position, saying we're so much better than you are. The people in 3D are saying we're so much better than you are, you crazy bunch of weirdos, you know. But the thing is, we are on different paths. So it's a matter of just like seeing Titanic, you know, disappear in the horizon. You have to wave and say goodbye. I'm going to miss you. It's been a wonderful adventure together. But now the time has come for us to part. And what the future will be for us, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can see now large fights in families. They are falling apart. It's so difficult also to see. Yeah, but
it is. No, I think every single individual that I know is going through the exact same thing. It's the mother, it's the son, it's the brother, it's in the families and close friends and spouses. But there's also a beautiful unifying force among people who are on the train. You know, so if you start focusing on the people, either on the station, if you are among them, then focus on them, or on the train, then start focusing. Okay, so we've taken this journey together. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And you will find a lot of beautiful individuals that are on the same journey where you don't have to headbutt each other and fight all the time, you know.
Yes,
So
that's, yeah.
it's a bit like teenage kids as well. They have to leave the nest, and so you can headbutt and try to control them, or you can bless them, love them, and let them go, and let them. So it's like, what can I don't know. I just know that I do my best, and I try not to judge, and then. But can I say there's one thing I really would like to, that I love about fear. You know, when you look at how we're being controlled, there's only one weapon they have against us. It's fear. Take away fear, they've got nothing. They've got nothing. Yeah. If they say, do that, or I will, or you will what? I will chop your head off. If you say, well, do it. You take away all the arsenal from, they have nothing. You know, if you don't fear death, even, it's really hard for them. But if you bow down right away, pull down your pants and say, I surrender, do whatever you want, they got you by the balls, literally. So the beauty of fear is that, where is fear, Heidi? Where, can you please describe fear? Is it square? Is it blue? Is it under your armpit? Where is your fear? It's only in the mind.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good news. Because if it's not real out there and it's only in my mind, I have a possibility to deal with it. So the beauty of the male brain, at least, but I think the female brain as well, there can only be one thought at a time and only one feeling. So you can't be terrified and happy at the same time. It's either or, meaning, okay, so that's good as well. And a thought as well, meaning, if there's only room for one thought, you can have one fearful thought. You cannot have a happy thought at the same time. But if you can start working with your mind so that you can change the thought, you can start dealing with your fear. And then what I love about fear is also, it's always connected to the future. You're never fearful of something that has happened. You might be fearful of repeating itself, but you're always fearful about something that might happen, that has not even happened yet.
Yes.
It's always connected to something that hasn't even happened yet. Yeah. So when you look at it, here we are letting ourselves be controlled of something that is only between my ears, that has nothing to do with reality, has not even happened yet, and it's only speculation. What a waste of life.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
and then when you see, that's how they can control us. So when you say, how are we going to do with this flying? I have absolutely no idea. Am I even going to bother about it right here and now when I speak to you? No. No. And I know people, I have met this beautiful new friend I have here. She's just been on a world tour without getting vaccinated, without any PCR tests, because she was just not afraid. She didn't even understand really that she could not, so she just did it.
Great.
And this is the thing. If you just become, have you seen the Dances with Wolves with Kevin Costner? In the beginning, when he thinks that his whole life is over, his leg is destroyed, and he's just going to be amputated, and he thinks, I'm done, but I don't want to die like a cripple. So he gets on his horse and he does what the native Indians did a lot, where they just surrendered themselves to spirit or whatever, where he just let fear go and just throws up his arms, and he's galloping along enemy lines, and everybody's shooting. No one hits him. No one hits him. And that's when the Native Americans had many different words for when you are in that space. You cannot manipulate it. If you just think, or I'm going to look like I'm fearless, but you're not, you would be hit right away. But there is this magic that happens around it when you surrender yourself totally, knowing that there's no safety net at all. And I think that is where we need to put ourselves here, because there is no security net here. We are in a position, nothing that worked a year ago is working now. What you did 2 years ago, does it matter? Absolutely not. We are all in the same boat. So how are we going to deal with this? I have no idea. But what I do know is that fear is not the option. It is the way down. And faith and creativity and a free spirit is the way out.
I think it's also a matter of leadership. When, for example, in the Netherlands, and you see it happen in many, many countries at the moment, I see such poor leadership, and it's based on fear and egos.
Can I ask you, when you say leadership, what are you talking about? Politicians?
Yes, and I want to go, of course, to inner leadership and to inner authority. That are we going to give away our leadership to our governments that really do a poor job at the moment, and anyone can see that? Or do we take our own responsibility and take leadership within ourselves? And I think that's also a journey that we can make it in these times.
They're doing a great job. They're doing a great job. The only thing is, you think they're working for you. Sorry, they're not. Their job is to get you into a sheep thing where you can be totally. They're doing a great job. Do you think they're working for you? Think again, because that is so not true. And
Never.
do you know the meaning of the word government? It means governmented, control the mind. It's mind control in the word. You got the German word Regierung, in same Scandinavian languages, rulers.
Yeah, rulers.
They say it, but we think, no, they're our servants. That is so not true. So my friend Max Egan, he was asked if he votes, and he said, no, I do not support organized crime. I thought that was the best answer ever.
Yeah, that's true.
So don't give away the power, especially not to people. Like, when you look at these so-called leaders, are these people you would follow in battle? I mean, they've got no courage whatsoever. The spine of jelly, the personality of yogurt, very pleasant if you don't have to be dependent on it. It's like, what the hell? These are not alpha individuals or women that you would say, oh my God, look at that woman. That is somebody that I really respect. That's not what you see. You see people that many of them haven't even had a normal job ever. They have no experience. And in many governments, I kid you not, one of the basic rules, I don't know if it's that like in Holland, they're not allowed to be experts in their area.
Yeah.
What? Wake me up.
Yes.
I mean, if you were the leader of a country, wouldn't you say, okay, listen, our finances are not the best. Let's find the best person in that area and bring them in. Yeah. But no. Let's bring the absolute worst individual that has no idea and put them in charge. Really?
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful times.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. I mean, you cannot say that it's boring. And I tell you, there was this guru that I really liked. He's a bit like Satguru, but he died earlier. Funny guy. Gurudev was his name. Anyway, so people were saying, oh, it's so horrible. Oh, it's so horrible. Okay, so he made a movie. He got it financed and he made a movie. And the movie started really beautiful. Everybody was happy. It was fantastic. And then the whole movie, everybody was so happy. It was amazing. It was fantastic. And then it ended and everybody was happy and it was amazing and it was fantastic. No one wanted to watch it. They fell asleep. It was dead boring.
Yeah.
So people that say, oh my God, I just want to be happy. Really? Is that really what you want to be? What type of movies are you watching?
Yeah.
What type of movies are you into? Horror movies? Are you into zombie movies? Are you into thrillers? Are you into like serial killers? These are the things that gets interesting.
Yeah, science fiction.
So when normal daily life is spiced up like that, then you go, oh my God, it's so horrible. Really, is it? Why don't you deal with it? Yes. Because you might be part of creating it in your reality. So I would say, stop whining. I'm talking to myself as well. Stop whining, get out of victimhood and face it. I mean, once again, the Native Americans, some tribes say that the spirits that are down here now are the strongest of the strong. Absolutely. We fought our way down here, fought our way to get down here to this reality, to be able to take part of this time, you know, and then we come down here and then we say, ooh, it's a little bit scary. What? Come on.
Yeah.
Excel, become the best of you, shine, you know. Okay, so you might die. Well, surprise, surprise. They say we're going to die anyway.
Yeah.
So why not do it in a way that you feel, wow, what an adventure, what a trip. My God, am I happy? Yep, this was the best one ever. And then die in peace and feel, yay, baby, I did it. Or live your life like a wimp and under a stone somewhere and be a disaster, become a traitor, somebody that tells, you know, informer to the police that give up people. You can do that. It's your choice. But how are you going to feel in your soul when you leave this existence?
Yeah, that's true. Wow, Ole. It's amazing.
Hans. This is a wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
Very, very, very lovely. I'm very thankful for what you said and how you inspired us.
And you know, part of me inspiring are so-called traumas.
Yes.
Go figure that one.
Yes.
So anybody with a trauma out there or depression, I'm going to say things that people are not going to like. Depression,
but it's very necessary. Yes. They are the
Depression, I would say, and now I'm going to be hated. Depression is when you think too much I, me, mine.
Yeah.
When you're too focused on I, me, mine, then your mind will start going into a downward spiral. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking from my own, I mean, I'm sure there's clinical depression and things like I have absolutely no idea, but I've seen it over and over again. When people get into this black hole, myself included, I'm too much becoming in my mind. It's poor me, I'm a victim, all of these are horrible, the world is horrible, all of it. If you change the mindset to we, what can I do for us? What can I do to lift? When you start getting out of your bed and out and help someone, you start feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful way of curing depression. Get the hell out and do good for the world. And you will find out that, my God, I'm so well off when I compare to people that have real problems sometimes, you know. Go to a war zone, spice things up, and suddenly you won't be so depressed anymore about your own life.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I did not mean this in a personal way of looking down at people that are depressed, but it is, you know, I've been sitting with a shotgun in my mouth, you know, with a hand on the trigger. Yeah, but the thing was, I didn't want to die. I wanted to make a conscious choice to live because I was not feeling good. And I was all alone up against these assassins and stuff like that in Sweden. I had people murdered around me. It was a difficult time of my life. So I had a loaded gun. I put it in my mouth and I had my finger on the trigger, you know, that the difference between life and death like that. So it was loaded, but just like I say, I did not want to die, but I wanted to sort of make a distinct choice. I want to live. I don't want to be in this in between. I want to live.
Yeah.
And so after a while, I made that decision and then I carefully took the gun and put it away. And then I went out and I shaved off my hair because when you look at many forensic detective stories and so on, you will see that a lot of poisons are stored in the hair.
Yeah.
And I just thought my hair was totally dead. So I shaved it off, and that was a turning point in my life.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Hans, you're too late. You can't do it. Anyway.
I'm so happy you made that right decision to stay here.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
Listen, guys, can I finish with a prayer?
Of course, please.
I'm not a supporter of religions. No, I'm not judging anyone. The way I see it, it's been misused in so many different areas as a control mechanism. Not my favorite, but spirituality, different. So there's this prayer that I love, and it goes like this. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. That is the entire universe. Every single square millimeter be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May the light of truth overcome all darkness. So victory to that light. I've written a book called Mind Me. It was actually after something similar to ayahuasca trip, and I just had this download. It's a small little power book, a 1 hour read that came to me like this. But in it, if anyone is interested of how to deal with your inner demons or whatever it is, it has been very helpful to many people. And
Yes.
I'm very grateful to have been part of writing it down, but I do not take responsibility for, I'm still reading and thinking, oh, wow, that is great. Wow, that is so amazing.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you know when they say, this guy is not going to stop talking. When they say to be inspired, it means in spiritus. When
In
body and mind
spiritus.
aligns, spirit enters. So there's this divine download that most of us experiences from time to time when we get really inspired, and then it comes from above, and boom, and then you know that it's just beautiful.
Yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, you have also a great website, Light on Conspiracies. That's a beautiful name, Light.
That is, there's my sweetheart Kim that came up with that one. Absolutely, so spot on.
Yeah.
So
thank you so much, Ole.
Thank you, Ole.
Yes,
and please use whoever is listening. If you get inspired by this, then get your gear in and start doing something for these kids. It is enough to just sit here and say, or put a like thing on Facebook, whatever, means absolutely nothing. People are suffering out there. Do something about it. Do for them. Really, it is so many years too late. So many have already suffered incredibly and died and are still doing it. So let's not stop this madness.
Yes.
Let it stop.
That's a wonderful ending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the conversation, and enjoy your evening.
That I will
for
indeed.
We're going to start the day here, but
No, thank you so much for inviting me, and
I hope to see you again.
Yeah, later. In Holland and Belgium also, eh?
Yeah, who knows? I'm in Southeast Asia now, and until we get out of this madness, maybe I immigrated, because I am not getting on a plane again. It was an absolute horror apocalyptic trip to get here. And
yes. But you did it without testing and without all that crap.
I had to do the testings, but I didn't. But I did not.
Whoa.
So I'm not going